My daughter-in-law tried to put me in a nursing home. I cut her out of my will. I still remember the exact moment my world shifted. It wasn't the day my husband, Thomas, passed away after 42 years of marriage. It wasn't the day I signed the last insurance papers or folded away his favorite blue sweater that still smelled faintly of cedar and aftershave. No. The real heartbreak came 8 months later, when I accidentally overheard my daughter-in-law planning my future as if I were already gone. My name is Eleanor Brooks. I'm 72 years old, a retired elementary school teacher, and until recently, I believed family meant forever. Thomas and I spent our entire lives building something meaningful. We weren't wealthy by billionaire standards, but we lived comfortably. We paid off our home decades ago. We invested carefully. We never carried unnecessary debt. By the time Thomas died, everything we owned together was worth just over $2 million. But none of that mattered to me. What mattered was family. Our only son, Michael, had always been a kind-hearted boy. He married Amanda 12 years earlier. She was charming, polished, and always knew exactly what to say. At least, that's what I believed. After Thomas died, Michael insisted I shouldn't stay alone. "Mom," he told me, "come stay with us for a while. The house is too quiet." Amanda smiled warmly. "We'd love having you." Those words comforted me. I packed only a few suitcases, believing it would be temporary until I found my footing again. Their home was beautiful. Large windows overlooked a peaceful neighborhood. My grandson, Ethan, was 16 and rarely looked up from his books, but he always hugged me before leaving for school. My granddaughter, Lily, was 10 and loved baking cookies with me every Saturday. For the first few weeks, life felt almost normal. I cooked dinner twice a week. I watered Amanda's flowers. I picked Lily up from piano lessons. I never wanted to feel like a burden. Whenever Amanda thanked me for helping, I smiled. I like staying busy. She'd laugh politely. Then little things began changing. Amanda stopped asking if I wanted to join family outings. They'd leave for dinner without mentioning their plans. Sometimes I'd hear the garage door close before realizing everyone had gone. When they returned, Amanda always had an explanation. "Oh, it was last minute." Or, "We didn't want to tire you out." Michael never questioned her. He simply accepted whatever she said. I convinced myself I was imagining things. Grief has a strange way of making people overly sensitive. At least that's what I kept telling myself. One afternoon, while dusting the upstairs hallway, I heard Amanda talking on the phone inside her office. The door wasn't fully closed. I had no intention of listening. But then I heard my name. "She's healthier than I expected." I froze. Amanda laughed softly. "I honestly thought she'd be struggling by now." Silence followed before she spoke again. "No. Michael still feels guilty." Another pause. "I've already found a beautiful nursing home 20 minutes away." My hands started trembling. Amanda continued speaking as casually as someone discussing grocery shopping. "If we convince him it's safer for her, she'll be out before Christmas." My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear. Then came the sentence I'll never forget. "Once she's settled there, we can finally start renovating her house after she signs everything over." I nearly dropped the feather duster. My house? Sign everything over? They weren't talking about helping me. They were talking about removing me. I backed away before she noticed I was standing there. Every step toward my bedroom felt heavier than the last. Inside, I locked the door. For nearly an hour, I sat on the edge of the bed staring at Thomas's wedding ring resting in my jewelry box. Tears blurred my vision. Had Amanda always been pretending? Was every smile fake? Did Michael know? That question hurt the most. Because if my own son agreed with her, then perhaps I'd already lost him long before Thomas died. That evening Amanda served roasted chicken with mashed potatoes. She smiled across the table. Eleanor, I was thinking we should look at some senior communities together. The fork slipped from my fingers. She continued before anyone responded. They're really wonderful now. Activities every day. Nurses available all the time. Michael nodded absent-mindedly while checking emails on his phone. Maybe someday, he said. Amanda looked directly at me. I think sooner would be better. I forced myself to smile. I appreciate your concern. Inside, my trust had already begun to crumble. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, Amanda's words echoed in my mind. Once she's settled there, we can finally start renovating her house after she signs everything over. By morning, I had made one promise to myself. I wouldn't confront anyone until I knew the truth. If Amanda was acting alone, I needed to know. If Michael was involved, I needed to accept it, no matter how painful it would be. At breakfast, Amanda greeted me with her usual cheerful smile. Good morning, Eleanor. I made your favorite oatmeal. I thanked her and sat down. For the first time, I watched instead of trusting. She kept glancing toward Michael before bringing up the same subject. There's an open house at a beautiful senior residence this weekend. Michael looked uncomfortable. Do we have to talk about that now? Amanda laughed lightly. I'm just thinking ahead. She turned to me. You deserve professional care. Professional care. The words stung. I still drove my own car. I cooked. I gardened. I exercised every morning. There was nothing wrong with me. After breakfast, Michael left for work. Amanda soon drove Lily to dance class. The house became quiet. I walked into the home office. Not to snoop. At least that's what I told myself. But something inside me needed answers. Amanda's desk was unusually neat. On top sat a folder labeled Senior Living Options. My hands hesitated. Then I opened it. Inside were colorful brochures from 3 nursing homes. Each one had handwritten notes. Private room. Financial assistance. Move-in specials. One page had my name written across the top. Eleanor Brooks. I felt my stomach tighten. Another sheet listed estimated monthly costs. Beside it, Amanda had written. House sale covers everything. House sale. No one had my permission to sell anything. As I carefully placed everything back exactly where I'd found it, I noticed another folder partially tucked beneath a notebook. It wasn't labeled. Inside were printed property records. My house. Tax information. Estimated market value. Recent comparable home sales. Someone had spent hours researching my property. I closed the folder just as I heard the garage door opening. Amanda was home. I returned to the kitchen before she walked in. There you are, she said with a smile. I was wondering where you'd gone. I was making tea. She smiled again. The same warm smile that no longer fooled me. That evening, Ethan found me sitting alone on the back porch. You okay, Grandma? I smiled. Just thinking. He sat beside me. You don't smile as much anymore. His words surprised me. Children notice more than adults realize. I gently squeezed his hand. Can I ask you something? Sure. Has your mom ever talked about me moving somewhere else? He frowned. You mean the nursing home? My heart skipped. So you've heard that? He nodded slowly. I wasn't supposed to. What did she say? Ethan looked toward the house before lowering his voice. Mom told Dad it would make everyone's life easier. I stayed silent. She said this house feels crowded. His eyes filled with guilt. I didn't think she meant it. I forced a reassuring smile. It's all right. But it wasn't. Not even close. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I quietly walked downstairs for a glass of water. Voices drifted from the living room. Amanda and Michael. We can't keep putting this off, Amanda whispered. Michael sighed. She's my mother. I know that. No. I don't think you do. There was a long silence. Then Amanda spoke again. If she waits another 10 years, we'll be in our 60s before we inherit anything. My knees nearly gave out. Michael didn't answer immediately. Finally, he said something that broke my heart. I just don't want her to think we're abandoning her. Amanda replied without hesitation. She'll get over it. I quietly turned around before either of them saw me. Back in my bedroom, I opened the small safe Thomas had installed years earlier. Inside were our wills, property deeds, investment records, and a handwritten letter Thomas had left for me. His final words were simple. If anyone ever pressures you about money, remember this. Kindness never demands ownership. I held the letter against my chest. For the first time since Thomas died, I realized I wasn't just grieving my husband. I was grieving the family I thought I still had. The next morning, I acted as though nothing had changed. I smiled when Amanda greeted me. I thanked her for breakfast. I asked Lily about school and reminded Ethan not to forget his math test. No one could have guessed what was happening inside my heart. I had spent my entire life teaching children to tell the truth. Now I was sitting at a table where the people closest to me were hiding theirs. After everyone left, I drove to my own house for the first time in weeks. The front porch looked exactly as Thomas and I had left it. The flower beds were overgrown, but I didn't mind. When I unlocked the front door, a wave of memories rushed over me. Every room carried a piece of our life together. The kitchen where we danced while making dinner. The living room where we watched old movies every Friday night. The small study where Thomas handled our finances. This wasn't just a house. It was my home. I slowly walked from room to room, realizing something important. I wasn't ready to leave. Not now. Maybe not ever. While cleaning the study, I found a business card tucked inside one of Thomas's notebooks. It belonged to our longtime estate attorney, Mr. Richard Collins. Thomas trusted him completely. Without thinking twice, I picked up my phone and called his office. To my surprise, he remembered me immediately. Eleanor, it's good to hear your voice. How have you been holding up? I've had better days, I admitted. He gently suggested we meet the following afternoon. I think it's time we reviewed your estate plan anyway. I agreed. For the first time in days, I felt a small sense of relief. Someone was finally on my side. When I returned to Michael's house that evening, Amanda was unusually cheerful. I have wonderful news, she said. What is it? I booked a tour of a beautiful senior community for Saturday. She smiled as if she'd planned a vacation for me. They even have a spa. I looked at her calmly. That was thoughtful. She seemed surprised that I didn't argue. I knew you'd come around. Michael looked relieved. He probably believed the conversation was settled. But he had no idea what I had planned for tomorrow. That night, I sat in bed with Thomas's letter in my hands. I read the last sentence over and over again. Protect what we built together. Until now, I thought protecting it meant passing everything to family. Now I was beginning to understand that family wasn't defined by shared blood alone. It was defined by loyalty, honesty, and love. And I was no longer certain everyone in this house deserved any of those gifts. The next afternoon, I arrived at Mr. Richard Collins' office 10 minutes early. He greeted me with a warm smile and the same firm handshake Thomas had always respected. It's good to see you, Eleanor. It's good to see someone I know I can trust, I replied. His smile faded slightly. We sat across from each other in a quiet conference room. This is your current estate plan. Everything was exactly as Thomas and I had arranged years ago. After my passing, nearly everything would go to Michael. A few charitable donations would be made to the local library and children's literacy program. Amanda wasn't named directly, but through Michael, she would benefit from everything. Mr. Collins looked at me carefully. Do you still want this arrangement? I stared at the papers. Only a month ago, I would have answered without hesitation. Now, I don't know. He closed the folder. Then don't make any emotional decisions today. I won't. Take your time. Before leaving, he handed me copies of every important document. If you decide to make changes, call me. As I walked toward my car, my phone rang. It was Michael. Mom, where are you? I had a few errands. Amanda's voice echoed faintly in the background. Tell her we're waiting. Michael cleared his throat. We're all going to dinner tonight. I'll be there soon. When I arrived home, Amanda greeted me with another bright smile. We almost started without you. During dinner, she casually brought up the nursing home again. I spoke with the director today. I quietly sipped my water. They have one room left. Michael shifted uncomfortably. Amanda continued. It won't stay available forever. Then she looked directly at me. I think we should reserve it. I smiled politely. I'll think about it. Her expression lit up as though she'd already won. She had no idea that only an hour earlier, I'd been reviewing the very documents she hoped would one day make her wealthy. For the first time since all of this began, I realized something important. Amanda thought she was planning my future. She didn't realize I still had the power to rewrite it completely. A few days passed, and I continued pretending everything was normal. I helped Lily with her homework. I baked Ethan's favorite apple pie. I thanked Amanda whenever she made coffee for me. The more pleasant I became, the more confident Amanda seemed. She believed I had accepted the idea of leaving. One Saturday morning, she announced with excitement, the tour is at 1 o'clock. We should leave around noon. I looked up from my newspaper. What tour? She laughed softly. The senior community. Oh. I folded the newspaper and smiled. I've decided not to go. The smile disappeared from her face. What do you mean? I mean I'm not interested. She forced another smile. Maybe you should at least see it. I appreciate the invitation, but my answer is no. The room became silent. Michael looked from Amanda to me, unsure what to say. Amanda finally broke the silence. Eleanor, we're only thinking about what's best for you. I met her eyes. No, Amanda. You're thinking about what's best for everyone else. Her face stiffened. I don't understand. I'm sure you do. She quickly changed the subject, but the cheerful mood never returned. Later that afternoon, I drove back to my own house. I spent hours cleaning, opening the windows, and watering the neglected garden. With every room I dusted, I felt stronger. This house wasn't lonely anymore. It reminded me of who I was before I let grief convince me I couldn't live on my own. While sorting through old mail, my phone rang. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Helen Carter. I saw your car outside. Are you moving back? I smiled. I'm thinking about it. Oh, Eleanor, that would make me so happy. We all miss seeing you around here. We talked for nearly an hour. For the first time in months, I laughed. Real laughter. Not the polite kind I'd been forcing at Michael's house. That evening, when I returned, Amanda was waiting in the living room. You were gone all day. I was at my house. She crossed her arms. You shouldn't be driving back and forth alone. I've been driving for over 50 years. I'm just concerned. I nodded. I know. But her concern didn't sound like concern anymore. It sounded like disappointment. She had expected me to become more dependent. Instead, I was becoming independent again. That night, I quietly made a decision. I wasn't going to wait for someone else to decide where I belonged. Within the next week, I was going home. 3 days later, I packed my suitcases before sunrise. I folded my clothes carefully, wrapped Thomas's photograph in a soft towel, and placed his wedding ring inside my purse. I wasn't running away. I was simply going home. When Amanda came downstairs and saw the luggage by the front door, she stopped in her tracks. What is all this? I'm moving back to my house. Her expression changed instantly. So, you've already decided? Yes. You'll be alone. I've lived alone before. She forced a nervous laugh. Eleanor, I don't think that's a good idea. I appreciate your opinion. Michael walked into the kitchen just then. Mom, what's going on? I'm going home. He looked shocked. Why didn't you tell us? Because I knew you'd try to change my mind. He rubbed the back of his neck. We're only worried about you. I smiled gently. If you're worried, you can visit me. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Ethan came downstairs. His face brightened when he saw the suitcases. You're moving back? Yes. He hugged me tightly. I'm happy for you, Grandma. Amanda looked irritated but said nothing. Lily ran over and wrapped her arms around my waist. Can I still come bake cookies at your house? Every Saturday, I promised. Her smile made the decision even easier. An hour later, Michael helped load my luggage into my car. As he closed the trunk, he looked at me with guilt in his eyes. If we've done something to upset you. I interrupted him gently. Take care of your family, Michael. He nodded, but I could tell he wanted to ask more questions. He never did. Driving back to my own home felt different this time. The house no longer seemed empty. It felt welcoming. Like it had been waiting patiently for me to return. That evening, after unpacking a few boxes, someone knocked on the front door. It was Helen, carrying a homemade casserole. I figured you wouldn't feel like cooking tonight. I laughed. You know me too well. She looked around the house and smiled. It feels alive again. So do I. For the first time since Thomas passed away, I sat on my own porch as the sun disappeared behind the trees. No pressure. No whispered conversations. No pretending. Just peace. And deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. Because now that I was back in my own home, the next move would be mine. A week after moving back home, my life began to settle into a peaceful routine. Every morning, I watered the flowers Thomas had planted years ago. I visited the local grocery store, chatted with familiar faces, and spent my evenings reading on the front porch. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Michael called every few days. His conversations were short but polite. Amanda never came to the phone. That didn't surprise me. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, my doorbell rang. Standing on my porch were Michael and Amanda. Neither of them had called first. I invited them inside. Amanda looked around the house, her eyes scanning every room as though she were inspecting a property for sale. It's a lot of work maintaining a house this size, she said. I managed just fine. She smiled. For now. Michael cleared his throat. We actually came to talk. I nodded. I'm listening. Amanda reached into her handbag and placed a folder on the coffee table. I've done some research. Without opening it, I already knew what it was. There are several wonderful retirement communities nearby. I looked at the folder but made no effort to touch it. I've already made my decision. Amanda kept smiling. You don't even know what's inside. I don't need to. She leaned forward. Eleanor, you're not getting any younger. Neither are you. For a brief second, her smile disappeared. Michael sighed. Mom, Amanda is only trying to help. I looked directly at my son. Michael, if I ever need help, I'll ask for it. The room fell silent. Amanda slowly pushed the folder closer to me. At least read it. Instead, I pushed it back toward her. No, thank you. She stood up, clearly frustrated. I don't understand why you're being so stubborn. I remained calm. And I don't understand why you refuse to respect my answer. Michael looked exhausted. He stood as well. We should go. As they reached the front door, Amanda turned around one last time. I hope you know we're only thinking about your future. I met her eyes without blinking. My future is exactly where I want it to be. After they left, I locked the door and let out a long breath. An hour later, my phone rang. It was Mr. Richard Collins. I've finished reviewing everything. And? If you still wish to make changes to your estate plan, everything is ready. I looked around my living room. At Thomas's photograph. At the family pictures on the fireplace. At the home we had built together. Then I answered with complete certainty. Yes, Richard. It's time. He paused for a moment before replying. I'll prepare the final documents. As I ended the call, I realized something Amanda had never understood. She believed the inheritance already belonged to her. But until my final breath, every decision still belonged to me. The following Friday, I arrived at Mr. Collins' office with complete confidence. This time, there was no hesitation. No uncertainty. He placed a neatly organized stack of documents in front of me. I've updated everything according to your instructions. I carefully read every page. My home would no longer automatically pass to Michael. A large portion of my savings would be donated to the Children's Literacy Foundation that Thomas and I had supported for years. Another portion would create college funds for Ethan and Lily, funds that no one else could access. The remaining assets would stay under my control for as long as I lived. Mr. Collins looked at me kindly. Are you certain? I smiled. I've never been more certain. I signed each document one by one. As the final signature dried, I felt an unexpected sense of peace. For the first time since Thomas's passing, I wasn't living in fear of someone else's plans. I was protecting the future we had built together. When I returned home that afternoon, I found Amanda's car parked in my driveway. She was waiting on the front porch. I've been calling you. My phone was on silent. She stepped inside without waiting to be invited. I've been thinking. I remained standing. So have I. She smiled politely. I think we got off on the wrong foot. Did we? I know things have been awkward. A little. She looked around the room before speaking again. Michael worries about you. I'm sure he does. Maybe we all said things the wrong way. I noticed something different. For the first time, she wasn't talking about nursing homes. She wasn't mentioning my safety. Instead, she asked a question that revealed exactly what mattered to her. Have you made any changes to your financial plans? I answered without emotion. Why do you ask? Oh. No reason. Then there's no reason for me to answer. Her smile faded. She stood quietly for a moment before picking up her purse. I hope you know we're family. I walked her to the door. Family doesn't measure love by inheritance. She had no reply. After she left, I watched her car disappear down the street. That evening, Michael called. Mom. Amanda said things didn't go very well today. I treated her respectfully. I know. He hesitated. I just wish everyone could get along. So do I, Michael. But peace only exists where there's honesty. There was a long silence. Before hanging up, he quietly said, I miss how things used to be. So do I. After the call ended, I looked at the signed estate documents resting safely inside my desk drawer. Amanda still believed she had time to change my mind. She didn't realize the decision had already been made. And there was nothing anyone could do to undo it. A month passed without any unexpected visits. The silence should have brought me peace. Instead, it made me wonder what Amanda was planning next. Then, on a rainy Thursday afternoon, Michael called. Mom, can we come over tonight? Of course. His voice sounded unusually serious. When they arrived, Amanda was carrying a large apple pie. She smiled warmly as if nothing had ever happened. I remembered this was your favorite. I thanked her and invited them inside. For a while, we talked about ordinary things. Lily's school play. Ethan's college applications. The weather. It almost felt like old times. Then Amanda placed her coffee cup on the table. Eleanor. I owe you an apology. I looked at her quietly. If I ever made you feel unwanted, I'm sorry. The words sounded carefully rehearsed. Michael looked relieved. I've been hoping we could move past everything. I smiled politely. I appreciate the apology. Amanda reached across the table and gently touched my hand. We're family. Money should never come between us. There it was. Money. She had managed to bring the conversation back to it. I slowly withdrew my hand. I agree. She continued. That's why I think we should all be completely open with each other. What do you mean? I just wondered. She hesitated for only a second. Whether you've made any changes to your will. The room became completely silent. Even Ethan looked uncomfortable. I met Amanda's eyes. My will is a private matter. Her smile vanished. I only asked because we're family. And that's exactly why I won't discuss it. Michael finally spoke. Amanda. She interrupted him. I don't think I'm asking for anything unreasonable. I stood up calmly. I think it's time to end this conversation. Amanda also stood. So you're hiding something? No. I'm protecting my privacy. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Ethan quietly broke the silence. Mom. Everyone turned toward him. I don't like talking about Grandma like she's already gone. His voice trembled. She's sitting right here. Amanda's face turned pale. Lily lowered her head, embarrassed. Michael closed his eyes for a moment. Ethan is right. He looked at me. I'm sorry, Mom. I nodded gently. It takes courage to admit when we're wrong. Amanda said nothing. She picked up her purse and walked toward the front door. As the family left, Ethan turned back, ran over, and hugged me tightly. I love you, Grandma. Tears filled my eyes. I love you too. After they drove away, I stood alone on the porch, watching the rain wash over the garden. For the first time, I realized something that gave me hope. Not everyone in the family had forgotten what love looked like. Some hearts were still worth fighting. 4.2 weeks later, I invited my family to my house for Sunday dinner. No birthdays. No holidays. Just dinner. Michael arrived first with Ethan and Lily. Amanda followed a few minutes later, carrying a bowl of salad. Everyone tried to be polite, but the tension was impossible to ignore. After we finished eating, I stood and cleared my throat. There's something I'd like to share. The room fell silent. I walked to the small cabinet beside the fireplace and took out a sealed envelope. I met with Mr. Collins several weeks ago. Amanda's eyes immediately fixed on the envelope. I updated my estate plan. No one spoke. I continued calmly. I've worked hard my entire life. Everything your father and I built came from sacrifice, honesty, and love. I looked at Michael. I always intended to leave it to the people who valued those things. Tears filled his eyes. I'm sorry, Mom. I know. Then I turned to Amanda. When I lived in your home, I overheard conversations about nursing homes, my house, and my inheritance. Her face lost all color. I. There is no misunderstanding. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. I never wanted revenge, I said quietly. I only wanted to know whether I was loved for who I was, or for what I owned. The silence in the room was overwhelming. Finally, Amanda whispered, I'm sorry. This time, the apology sounded real. Not because she had been caught, but because she had finally seen the pain she had caused. I nodded. I forgive you. She looked up hopefully. But I continued. Forgiveness and trust are not the same thing. I placed the envelope back inside the cabinet. My will has been changed. Amanda lowered her head. I understand. I smiled at Ethan and Lily. You two will always have opportunities to build your own futures. Both children hugged me tightly. Michael walked over and wrapped his arms around me. I'm ashamed I didn't protect you. You can start today, I replied. That evening, after everyone left, I sat alone on the porch where Thomas and I had spent countless sunsets together. The breeze carried the scent of fresh roses from the garden. I looked at the sky and smiled. I hadn't changed my will out of anger. I had changed it out of self-respect. Because growing older does not mean giving up your voice. It does not mean surrendering your dignity. And it certainly does not mean allowing anyone to decide your worth based on what they hope to inherit. My greatest legacy was never my house. Or my savings. Or the words written inside a legal document. My greatest legacy was showing my family that love must be earned with kindness, honesty, and respect. Everything else was just paper.